Hello, everybody. I'm Jeremy, owner-operator of Green 13 for 15 years. Third generation auctioneer and dealer of antiques and collectibles for over 30 years.
We are Lysandra and Tony from ilovediscounts_com. With 20 years of experience across brick and mortar, Amazon, eBay, and whatnot, we have built, broken, and rebuilt resale businesses, so you don't have to.
Hi, I'm Tracy, a CPA with over 30 years of audit and tax experience and have worked with businesses in various industries. I am also a seller on Whatnot, eBay, and Etsy.
Welcome to Reselling Roundtable.
Welcome to the Reselling Roundtable, everyone.
Indeed, welcome everybody. Well, we're down one person today, but today it's going to be an interesting one, especially for me. We're talking about buyer centric versus, or in conjunction with, however you want to perceive it, seller centric selling. I actually had a little bit of a hard time, kind of like thinking this one through, because I think no matter who you are, you're going to have a bias towards your belief that you're going to be a buyer-centric seller. No one's sitting around going, I'm a seller-centric seller. And I guess maybe to understand what I'm saying, the definition is probably a little bit important there. So buyer-centric, from my perspective, from what a standardized definition of buyer-centric selling is, when you're catering to the buyer more. And when you're a seller-centric seller, you're catering more towards, you as a seller. You're very hard nosed. You're very regimented in your perspective as far as selling for yourself. I guess that would be the easiest way to determine it. You're doing it more for yourself than you are for the buyer, and then the other way, you're doing things more for the buyer, as far as things are perceived. And I don't think anybody's really going to go, you know what? I'm in that second category. Right. I'm doing everything for myself. But so my perspective on this entire situation, on this entire principle, you'll hear me say this when I do my other chat shows and stuff. I say I'm a buyer-centric seller. But I think from other people's perspectives, they're going to think, especially when I talk about like how rigid I am with my return policy and how I am with certain other attributes, they would perceive me more as a seller-centric seller. So that's where I was kind of having a struggle, where to really approach this topic and where to go with it. To me, buyer-centric is providing an opportunity that it allows for the accumulation of bids and buyers to you as a business. So my perception is, if I'm a buyer-centric seller, I'm providing things that ease that purchase process. Free shipping, dollar starts, great deals. And then I understand the perspective on the back end. I guess you could perceive me more as a seller-centric person, because I have a very strict no cancellation policy. I'm very adamant about the rules and regulations that apply to the auction world. And that's the other thing you have to take into consideration. We're talking about this in this newer style of selling in comparison to other platforms. I mean, this is a 5-year-old style of selling, social selling. So really how to apply some of these principles that you would hear about before. And I know there's people on here that would fit more the mold of the seller-centric, because my perspective of seller-centric is like those, the people that set up shop on the corners, or the people that the Ginsu knife selling style. To me, that's more of a sell. They're you get trying to use incentives that are less than honest, I guess is what I would say, in order to get your business. So they're really relying on their sales capabilities as opposed to their what they're providing, as far as, like I always call, I'm providing an environment that people enjoy and like. They're all about the burn and turn. Get you in, get your money, and out there. That's my perspective of seller-centric. Buyer-centric is any situation you're creating an environment that brings the buyer joy and causes repeat buying. So I guess if I'm really thinking about boiling it down, is where you're creating an environment, no matter whatever means you decide to go about doing that, is creating something that encourages or creates a desire for the people to continue to come back and buy from you. So I'm going to let it at that for right now. There's a lot more. Again, I always have to check myself. I don't want to just keep on going because I have a habit of doing that. So I'm really curious because I really want to feed off of you guys more and really see what your perspective is on this, because I'm just being honest. You guys know I'm blunt and honest. Like, it's hard to sit down and go, okay, these are the definitions, and then be like, yeah, I'm going to put my foot in that seller centric.
Right.
You know, like, I just don't think anyone's raising their hand and saying that's me.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna turn it over, and then I don't know who wants to go next, but that's where my first peripheral perspective lies at this point with that.
Go ahead, Tristan.
Oh, you want me to go? Okay. So,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Sure. I usually wait till the end, but I'm good. I've thought about this a lot. So this is a topic that I've really given a lot of thought through, just in what I do in my normal, chat shows. So for me, the seller centric, if we're leaning more towards seller centric, it's more transactional. It is very rigid, strict. I think there's good and bad on both. So when we're kind of saying, hey, it's either seller centric or buyer centric, I don't think one's good or one's evil. I really believe there's a spectrum, and that we're not one of that. We're not just buyer, we're not just seller. I think there's a spectrum, and you fall as a seller somewhere on that spectrum. So maybe you lean more towards the buyer side, but you have some traits or some tendencies of being seller centric. And you depending on who you are, your personality, your structure, your strategy, you're going to lean a little bit more one way or the other. But again, it's not an all or nothing proposition for either one. When I think through seller centric, to me, it's transactional, it's strict, it's here, like Jeremy said, my refund policies. No promos in my show, no, you're laying down your rules. Usually in a whatnot scenario, your show notes are filled with, a couple of bullet points of follow these rules. You'll tend to hear more on the seller-centric side, buyers who lean more seller-centric. You don't follow my rules, I'm booting you out. There'll be more blocking. So there's more of this. It's a stringent, think of that teacher in school where it's kind of like you're going to sit there with your hands on your desk, or I'm going to put you in the corner type kind of scenario. However, they're still there to sell. That doesn't mean they're mean, they're rude. There's a lot of sellers that I can think off the top of my head that I would put into the bucket of seller-centric. However, they're very personable. They're very outgoing. You still want to be in their rooms. They still make you want to be part of the experience. So it's not, when we talk about it, I don't want to give the impression that being seller-centric is like this bad thing. It's just, in my head, far more structured. And structure isn't a bad thing. Structure creates buyer expectation. Structure creates comfort for your buyers. So just because somebody may be more seller-centric, that can actually create comfort that your buyers like. It reduces their anxiety. They know what to expect. They know the rules. They come in your room and they can sit back and relax, and they know what the norms are and what to or not to do. And a lot of people like that. So it could be, a really good, could work to your benefit being that manner. A seller-centric means, so I had to read 9 times comment there. Whereas on the other side, buyer-centric, in my opinion, in my kind of way of explaining it, is more about the experience. It's more about leading your buyer through their journey, removing barriers. I'm really big on talking about removing barriers to buying. So it's kind of helping them along that journey. It's giving them choice and ownership, not giving up control of your show, but providing, you're running an auction and you have 2 or 3 items, you're giving them choice. They feel like they're in control in a little bit, which again, that could be an aspect where buyers are really like, hey, I come to a show and I'm really a part of it. I feel a part of it. I'm not just kind of hanging out for the ride, right? Asking buyers, hey, I've got shirts or I've got pants. Which one do you want me to run? And in your head, when you're structuring your show, it doesn't mean that when you're buyer-centric that you've given up all structure, all authority, or all control. You just know, hey, when I get to this point, I'm going to give them a choice. I'm prepared to run either one. I'm good with it. but they have some buy-in. So they feel like they're actually on a journey through your show. So kind of when I think about it, that's how I separate the two. I have a lot more other points, but we're just going to leave it at that so we can keep the discussion rolling. I'm curious to hear Tony's thoughts.
So, well, I will start this by, I don't want to reiterate what both of you have just said, although they're fantastic points, and I can absolutely reiterate all of that and agree with it. I liked what Tracy said about most sellers are going to be kind of on that spectrum. You're going to, I feel like everybody is going to be seller centric because they have product, they need to sell product, they need to go back and rebuy product. So you have to get some sort of dollar amount for that product to be able to continue your business. And you have to figure out ways to be seller centric in a buyer centric manner, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. You have to accommodate and, as you said, entertain and make it comfortable and an open environment for your buyers to be able to move your product and go and continue with the next show, or the next sales, your next round of inventory if you're not on Whatnot. But I will add a couple of other points into that buyer-centric thing, and one of the bigger ones I would say is starting price. We, for the most part, we do dollar starts. But you have those items. I know Tracy has those items. We have recently been putting items in our bin that are not dollar starts that we expect to get some sort of value out of those. And that is absolutely one of the examples of being seller centric, right? The problem with that is, how long do you hold on to that inventory? How much of your money is tied up? And does it create a good buying experience for your customers when you're looking at normally being seller centric and doing your dollar starts and your free shipping and reduced shipping in our case now? We're still trying to mess with that a little bit and trying to figure out a good balance. As Jeremy said, everybody is going to, every seller is going to consider themselves on the buyer side, right? No one wants to say, "Oh, I'm all about me as a seller." I want to create that environment for the buyers, and I feel you can do a little bit of both. I feel like you should, on the majority side, be for the buyer side of it, and have a little bit of those things on the seller centric side of it to help maintain the business. You have to have some of those, you briefly talked about returns and cancellations, and I mean, you have to be careful. I mean, there's such a thing as being all for the buyer and making every accommodation, but as soon as it's too free, then how much of that is just wasted time, effort, energy, and money on the seller side?
You okay if I butt in here?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I feel it was a good stopping point.
It's a really hard conversation to have, and it's a really hard thing. And I think part of that has to do with, sorry about my phone, I just forgot to turn it down. A lot of this has to do with almost perspective and intent behind your actions on what you're doing on here. That would actually make something buyer-centric or seller-centric. So let's take, for example, you were talking about putting something to buy it now or doing dollar starts. One seems more than the other depending on the intent behind it. If you're doing it solely because you have this fear of selling something for $3 too little, or selling something and the shipping's off and you have to eat $2 on shipping, like you're so concerned about the bottom line for who you are as a seller, that to me is being seller centric. But if you're doing it from the perspective and intent of, I think this is what my buyers want. This is, they want the detailed pictures. They want all that information. That's the buyers I curated. And that's what my intent behind this is because that's what I think buyers want and provides the best buying experience. So that's where I think it really gets gummed up and it's hard. And that's also why everyone can view themselves as being buyer or seller centric. And the reality is we all know that that's going to also fluctuate in perception on the people that are buying from you. Like when people get mad, suddenly everything you're doing is a selfish, if they didn't have a great transaction or something went bad, suddenly you're the scum of the earth and you're not, you're just trying to take advantage of people.
Exactly.
And I'll give you an example of that. Like I have a very strict as is, and everyone understands the principles why I have as is. And somebody put in a return request for me, and I said, please read the description of your item. And the item said as is, and they got pissed, and they thought they literally told me they were gonna, report me for taking advantage of people and all this. So it's just, and that's where it gets really hard. I think there's always going to be a mix of both. So I think from the perception of the majority of people, I believe that I am buyer centric on what I would call the front end, and then like the pre-transaction and transaction of the buying, and then on the back end, I may be more seller centric because I am definitely all about my business model, not wanting to deal with returns and refunds and things that happen that circumvent the as is, because I'm a very heavy, and I make no bones about it, that I'm a third generation auctioneer. I believe that's a principled aspect of auctions. We are on an auction site, and I think there should be some accounting for that. And when we go around that, I've said this in the past, I feel like it's almost a slap in the face to that industry, because auction industry wouldn't have succeeded or existed if those attributes wouldn't be there. So to me, that's very important. And then to a lot of buyers, they're going to view that as me being very seller, like it's all about me. It's all about, in those manners. It is, truly, it is. It's all about my business, my bottom line, because that's the way I build it. I build it for people to get good deals. I didn't build it for them to get their cake and eat it too, where if they buy something and they can't make a profit on it, which I've got on a lot of that. Not that they're losing money. They feel like they paid full retail. So what's wrong with that? Right. But because their intent was to buy it for profit, they think I'm being not fair to them. So it's really hard. That's why I was saying I was having a hard time. Like, how do we really determine what's buyer and what's seller, and it just gets really murky with the perspective and intent behind your actions and your business model and how you're going. Because to me, I'm being buyer centric because, like I said, dollar starts, free shipping, providing the opportunity. I go out of my way. It's not a fake attribute to what I do, and intentionally not educating myself on stuff. I liked the value that the people bring to themselves. They get to sell themselves on it, as opposed to me trying to sell the item to them. Their knowledge that they share in the chat, their enthusiasm for anything that comes up, coupled with my, and all those elements, I view as a buyer-centric transaction. And then we know, I'm not going to have to say it, a bunch of, but on the back end, I'm very, very, very adamant and strict about the as-is policy and the no cancellations, no returns or refunds principle. So I think everyone's going to have some of both. It's going to be a mix. Where I think it starts getting bad is when it is really heavy in the defined aspect, like I was talking about before. The people you see where they're just churning through buyers, are more concerned about getting that sale done and don't care whether or not they sold you, or gave a false impression of something, or used their camera to show it at a funky angle so they're hiding something, that kind of stuff. They don't care about you as a buyer at all. They care about getting the transaction done and then on to the next person. They'll burn through people. They're more concerned about transactions than people, which is more the defining thing. We've all been in those rooms. They're going to be here. They're not going away. They're always going to, in live selling and selling in general, that's always around. So those are the ones that I would say, have a negative aspect to it. And then I think what's negative on, if you become too buyer centric, like you were talking, Tony, earlier, you end up with a lot of overhead. When you get yourself in a situation where you're holding everybody's hands through every single thing and every single attribute of what's going on and bending to every desire of complaint, so that's what you're going to curate. And then every transaction you have is going to have a larger customer service based cost associated with it.
100%.
And I think that becomes problematic. for the industry as a whole, and that, if that was the norm, which I don't think there is. I honestly think there's a nice healthy balance on Whatnot and these platforms for the buyers that want to find both at this current moment in time. However, I do feel that the current platform that we sell on is trying to push us more towards that end of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Of the, like, we want you to hold hands. We want you to, the customer is always right. There's nothing.
Yep.
That's my biggest, that's, as you guys know, again, that's another thing that where they're trying to force us into that. I would rather, like anything, I think the market should determine that for itself. I'm not but yeah, that's what I want to interject there and build on. So
I think one of the things that to me makes this topic so interesting is that the emergence of, online live selling is it kind of takes some of these traditional business concepts and the lines start to get blurred. We're combining, that old school static listing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago with, the advantages of live selling. So, if you're looking at your static listing, that's very seller centric. It's your rules. You put it out there, you do it your way. And then we come to live selling. Well, you've got to be a little more buyer centric. You've got to create that experience. And, if I kind of take a step back, 9 Dimes made a really good point about the most valuable companies are very seller centric. However, think about Walmart. You walk in, Walmart, very seller centric. It is about them and their profit. You go in and get your stuff. It's very transactional where, if I'm going to go to Louis Vuitton, I'm going to walk in and sit on a nice comfy couch. They're going to hand me my champagne. They're going to bring me the purses I want to see in a very buyer centric. They're catering to me to make my buying experience the most pleasurable experience that there is. So I think as we're doing these live auctions I really love your point of the front end and the back end, because that's really kind of what it comes down to is being, one way on one side and then more buyer, because we have to create that experience, when we're in front of that camera. We have a couple of other, I don't know if you guys have more thoughts. There is some comments in there we might want to touch.
No, we can address comments because this is such again, it's so funny when you mention certain and give certain definitions to you. I can see how I could interpret it completely the other direction. It's really, really interesting. So,
all right, let's see. What do we have over here? We have as a new seller. Here's a question, and we'll just go from the top down. As a new seller, how do you determine what your particular buyers want? Test a bunch of things. Seems to depend based on what one sells. I'm going to let one of you guys take an answer on this one.
So
I got an answer when you're done, Tony. So go ahead if you have something off the top of your head.
Well, I was just going to throw out there that you can't necessarily determine what you're going to sell based on what your buyers are going to buy. You sell what you're sourcing to start with, and the buyers find you, right? I mean, I don't feel I'm wrong in that answer. If you spent your time searching for the items for the specific sellers you have in mind, I think you're going to spend more time sourcing and less time building a client base, and you're going to force yourself into being a personal shopper, in my opinion. I think you find a niche, a category of what you're doing, and you start selling that, and those customers will come to you and will find you. At least for the Whatnot platform, right? On eBay, you can just do whatever you want to do. Throw as much out there, see what sticks, put it on there, hold it for inventory for 6, 7, 8 years, which I have done. I have held product for 6, 7, 8 years waiting for it to sell. I have. But on Whatnot, I feel it's more about the turn and burn rather than it is the holding inventory for X amount of months, days, months, weeks, years, whatever you want to call it. With that, yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I agree with everything. There at the end, until the platform changes, because Correct. If you're looking for top dollar, this is not the place to do the long tail style of sales on this platform, like trying to maximize profits that you're going to let sit and, So can you read the question one more time? I can't see it in here.
Sure.
I'm trying to see where.
As a new seller, how do you determine what your particular buyers want? test a bunch of things seems to depend based on what one sells.
Okay. Everyone's going to know this, that knows me. I am totally in disagreement with it depends on what you sell. That is not, to me, it's how you sell and not what you sell. That's irrelevant to the equation of success on here as a large majority, because everyone can find what you have. You can find what other people have. Doesn't matter what it is. You can sell like stuff, similar stuff. It's all about the experience to me. So for me, what you want to do as a new seller is always test things, not different products. You can get into that, but test you. And like Tony said, it really boils down to you going on, doing your thing, and finding your people. And whatnot, and the platform's responsibility is to get as many people onto the platform so they can find you. Right. Your job is to provide an opportunity for them to find you, which means be on and sell constantly and as much as you possibly can, because that's your road to success on Whatnot, or live streaming in general, because and create the experience, the entertainment. Like I was talking about earlier, people remember an experience more than they do a price.
Absolutely.
So, or even the product, like that's, they remember the reoccurring experience that they have with you. They remember, the longer you go, the story of your growth or your failures or your ups and downs. That's what the people, and so what you realize, this is social selling.
Yes.
You're selling the social more than you are the product, because the product is sold all over the place on 1 million different platforms at 1,000 different price points. They can go find it. They're here for you and what you have to offer. I mean, that's where your testing and trying different things should be. You should come on, do your sales, and go back and test, reevaluate, watch yourself. I know everyone loves doing that. And then come back with things you absolutely were like, I don't want to be here watching me. This is embarrassing. And you go back and try and change different things. Rinse and repeat until things seem to start working for you. And the people will come along with you. They actually enjoy that. When you're new, the people love helping you. People like helping you to succeed, receive that information, and you'll actually find yourself buyers and followers that support you because you allow them to support you and help. So, but there you go.
And I take a somewhat different view. Not that I disagree with everything it said. I'm more, just by nature, more of a planner. So I think before you even start selling anything, there's a process here. And any of you who've been around me know my process. It's source, sell, ship. It's all interconnected. So before you're even sourcing, before you even get to the point of what do my buyers want, what can you source? Like maybe everybody out there wants butter pats. Do you have availability to get butter pats? It doesn't even matter that they want butter pats if you can't get them. So what is it that you're sourcing? I mean, are you doing storage units? Are you doing estate sales? Are you doing vintage decor? Are you doing t-shirts, jeans, whatever it may be? So what are you sourcing? And then when you're making those decisions, you're also at the same time, before you even buy the first thing, it's in your head is like, all right, this is what I'm going to source or what I have ability to source. How am I going to sell that? How am I going to ship it? They're not separate things. It's one complete thought. Like it's one complete process. So for me, I take it from the very beginning. What do I even have availability to? Then once you start getting that, market feedback. You start collecting data from your customers. You put 60 items out there that you're selling. And after the show, you look at, wow, these 50 did really good, but these 10 didn't get much bids. Now you can start going back and refining what you're sourcing at that point. That's how I approach it. But so it's a little combination of what you're saying. But
no, I mean, I can see it. And I think what that boils down to then is personality types and traits. Is really like, it's hard. Like the more and more you like, I really love that we're doing this because you don't see the other perspectives. You're an accountant, right? So that makes complete sense to me that you're going to want to have things calculated, structured, and first you do this, and then you do that, and then you do this, and you go back to the beginning again and do that. Me, I'm confident in my abilities to find what's necessary. I want to go on and see what environment I can create that's going to allow me to sell almost anything. Like that's why I'm very, very, environment centric, because if I can create an environment that allows for a lot of people that are interested in the experience, then it opens up my ability to source almost anything.
Right.
So I take it from the shotgun approach of like, let's go from that perspective and see what I can pull out of that. Like one of the early challenges to me was, I'm going to buy a bunch of Hummels. I know Hummels are a hard sell. Now let's see what kind of environment I can create to sell Hummels. And I don't know if you know this, but do you know what environment I started with to try to sell Hummels? The reverse auction. That was my first practice reverse auction principle.
Really?
Was like, I'm going to see what I can create different, what kind of environment I can create that's going to help me sell something that most people have a hard time selling. And it worked splendidly. It worked like a charm. It worked great. Same thing with Avon bottles. I purposefully bought a bunch of Avon bottles to see what type of environment I could create to sell something, so I can be confident knowing that I will never be stuck with sourcing. So that's just a person. Other people would be like deathly scared of throwing the money out to do that. You know what I mean? You'd be like, absolutely not.
Right.
First off, if I got to buy a couple
touch a
Avon
Hummel.
bottles, and I'm just saying, like, if you had some and you put it up for sale and you knocked it out of the park, you'd be like, now I got to reevaluate it. Me, I'm like, let's see if I can make them worthwhile.
Right.
So it's just,
And
definitely personality involved there.
And I want to just throw one little thought into that, where Tracy made a mention a minute ago that if you had 60 items, but 50 of them sold really good, but the other 10 did not. The question you need to ask is, did they not sell good because the product is inferior and it's not worth anything? Or did you not have the right customer base in your room at that particular moment for those 10 items? Me personally, I would continue on that trend and buy those 60 items over and over again to see if I could build that clientele for those 10 items and eventually, because number one, that's more customer base that you have. And two, you never know what those people might buy in addition to those 10 items. And number three, maybe they just go for $1 and people think you're getting fantastic deals, and then they just come in and you keep giving dollars, but across the board, the average of the show grows a little bit because you've given off those dollar deals or whatever it is that makes people feel like they've got to win.
Yeah. And in my perspective on that, my version of that is kind of similar, but I would look at it, if I were to do a sale in that manner, I'd be like, all right, I'm buying more of these 10 things that didn't do well and find out what I can do to make them do well.
To make them better.
That's my mentality when I approach things. Like I just said, I did with Avon bottles and Hummels and things like that. So my perspective is, there's always things that sell themselves. That's what everybody's after.
Yes.
It's the stuff that I have to figure out how to create the ability to sell the things that not everybody can monetize. That is a huge aspect of my business. And that is also going through that early on. Now that I'm thinking about it, is what helped me get to the point where I can buy large quantities of merchandise without knowing what's in it.
Because you don't care.
Going according to my gut, because I've trained my brain and my system to create a buying environment that allows for that type of selling, where it's
Absolutely.
anything and everything. And if something doesn't do well, I don't shy away from it. And there's also those attributes you're talking about, Tony. I don't want to shy away from it because, as I'm sure everyone here knows, you may have had something up for sale, whatever style of selling you have, and then 30 minutes later, it sells. You can sell it where before no one was interested in it. So like you were saying, the right buyer in at the right time. We're live. People are coming and going constantly. You never know when you're going to have 3 or 4 people that are interested in what you have. And then 30 seconds later, what you have is of no interest. Some of the items you have are of no interest to people. That's the good and the bad of this platform.
That's true.
Well, I should just keep saying for live selling.
I
see you want to say something. I'll stop.
I do. I got a question, because I love what you're saying, and I have a question. Do you feel the approaches, though, are maybe relevant to the size of the Whatnot business? Or both of you sell more bulk items, so a lot larger quantities. My shows are usually more volume. Yes, mine are about 60 to 80 items, where both of yours are in the hundreds. So do you think kind of that approach may change a bit based on selling 60 items versus selling hundreds of items?
Okay. The answer would be yes, other than when I started experimenting with this stuff that I'm telling you about with the Hummels and stuff, we weren't doing the vault. This is early on. I mean, you're talking years ago. This is at the early phases when I didn't dedicate to let's just volume everything. Like, you know, so it was I want to get to that. I knew that was where I wanted to, let's experimenting, and that was the way I experimented. I did have other, you know, things that other people don't, the like the backlog and the access to get the stuff in large quantity at a reasonable price, you know, like, well, but again, you know, now I'm thinking about it, that was the purpose behind it. Stuff that you can find for very inexpensive prices that I could turn into a volume play. But then, like you said, that comes down to whether it shouldn't be where you're at with business. It's more where you want to go. So if you're not wanting to be a volume player, then what I'm talking about probably would not be the best suited. And what you're talking about would be best suited if you're more after a very controlled supplemental. This is what I want, and a very regimented style, and I'm happy with that. But I mean, we know it doesn't matter one way or another. I think the big problem is the people that have a desire to reach a certain point and going about it the wrong way, because they're listening to all of us, you know, on the chat talking like what works for them. And it really comes down to you sitting down and deciding what you actually want out of this before you even go into it. I knew what I wanted from the beginning. I saw the potential of ridiculous volume of selling anything under the sun. And I was like, woohoo, let's go.
Let's go.
You know, so, and not everybody wants that.
And I think Jeremy just made a fantastic point. Real quick, I'm just going to reiterate that. No seller is the same. You can take our experience, you can take our advice, you can listen to how Tracy does it, you can listen how Jeremy does it, you can listen how Tony does it, you can listen to the 14,000 other community shows on Whatnot. You're going to find some way different to do it. I feel like the point of these conversations that we're having is to give a general synopsis on how things work, but nothing very specific, because how Tracy's going to run her show is completely different than ours or Jeremy's. Everybody, yours, you know, whoever else is in here. Sorry, I can't read the chat that well, but whoever else is in this room, your sales tactics and the way you're going to run your business is absolutely going to be different across the board. And that's why it's so hard to give specific advice to sellers, especially in the live selling format, because how I set up my shipping is going to be different than how you are. How I'm going to dollar start things is going to be different how you're going to do it. You know, every piece of it is different, but the generality of it is what we're trying to convey and talk about. So if you can look at this business, your business in a live selling platform as a generality, then you can work out those specifics. And that's what I'm hoping that can be conveyed in these YouTube podcasts. Sorry.
We have a comment. I'm not sure, Millicent. I don't know if I'm understanding your comment. So Millicent says, and this goes back to our buyer-seller centric. Buyer-centric in that you also protect the rights of the back bidder and other bidders who miss the chance to buy. So I'm thinking it's probably geared more towards you, Jeremy, but I'm not sure if I totally understand.
Is that might be a reference towards respecting the purchase, the business of like that. The commitment that the seller makes to selling you an item for said price, you as a buyer should be committed to buying that. Because if you don't, and I think I'm just guessing that's what the reference is towards, you are basically, you know, taking away the opportunity of back bidders and potential other buyers, and which takes away from both the seller and potential other buyers, because whoever wins it and just decides to return it or throw it or cancel it or whatever for some, you know, small non-logical, or in my, whatever my perspective would be in this certain scenario, would be to not want to accept it. But if I were the type of person that would accept it, I think they're saying that you're basically telling the back bidder that they didn't matter in so many, in a roundabout way, if that makes sense. You know, like if you're accepting returns and refunds and accepting cancellations on, you're basically telling the back bidder, like, I don't care too terribly much about the back bidder. So given the opportunity, which, on a side note, I would love if that was an option. Like if something like that happened, that would be more I'd be more available to be like, you know what, I'll accept a cancellation if I can. If it was like an option where like you can send the offer to the back bidder because it's on file with whatnot to take the item, and then it auto accepts the cancellation. Like if the person could put it up for option for the back bidder to take the item if they wanted to, and then I think that'd be an awesome attribute. But
that
anyway,
would be wonderful. I would love that.
I'm speculating on that perspective. I didn't as far as Millicent's, I don't want to put words or perspectives in Millicent's
I'd be a pretty salty back bidder if I was only bidding against one other person, and the bidding started at $20 and it got to $92, but I was only fighting one other person, and then they canceled it off, and it's like, oh well, now I have to pay $90 versus the 20, which is where I had it in the first place. So I think that principle is kind of hard to put into place. I like the thought of it, though. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, that's given a thought that everybody that's bidding knows how many people and who was the back bidders on everything and who ran what up when.
Yeah.
Like, are you always going to know that? Like, I just think the option would be nice. Like,
correct.
So yeah, if you felt salty, you would just say, no, I'm not taking that.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'll take it for 20, but I'm not taking it for
right.
the 85 instead of the 90, and that's fine.
Right.
Just the option alone would be cool.
And,
the option
and really,
would be good.
I mean, you were willing to pay the 90 or the 91. I mean, you were there with the bidding, so you
bid it up.
Yeah.
We have another question.
I really wanted it.
This is a good one. I wish I had this problem sometimes. It says, kind of off topic, but how do you deal with a buyer who literally buys up everything and winning to the point that the other buyers are so fed up they're mentioning it in the chat?
I'll start. What do I care who buys how much? Period. I'll elaborate and we could talk about it. Why, as a seller, do I care that Millie comes into my room and buys 90 of my 95 items?
That's right.
I don't care. I'm in the business to move product. If that annoys the other 42 people in my room, then bid $1 more. I'm sorry. Millie will buy 90 items, and maybe somebody will scroll through my room who will challenge Millie. And maybe they won't. But I am never going to be mad that one person bought everything. I don't care who buys it.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you from my experience. So we would have situations that this would happen a little bit when we were in the clothing category. When I dived into that, we would have some buyers that would scoop up a large percentage. It never got to the point where the chat started complaining other than a little bit. Like they would just say it. But for the person who's asking the question, give it time. Those people eventually fade out.
Yep.
And or you start getting more buyers that are willing to pay for it. What you don't want to do is feed into it and make it a big ordeal. You want to, you can address it and just be like, hey, it's an auction, the high bid wins. There's no, you do something to give comfort to everybody. That my biggest understanding of the concern that people have is, one, they think that you're in cahoots with the person. Mm-hmm. That happens. So I understand from a seller, you're going to be concerned that may be a perception to be had in your rooms, and you don't want that. Yeah. And two, that you're never going to get those higher bids, because honestly, if there was a small auction and I wanted to go in and dominate and clean it out, and you do that, you create a low morale thereby causing prices to be suppressed.
Yes.
If you go in and so I understand that's the concern you have as a seller with something like that happening, but you can't really do a whole lot to control that. You can't block the person because that's just, you could,
that would be stupid.
but that would be a terrible thing and a terrible precedent to set for your business. There's a couple things you can do if you're, depending on what your relationship and environment you created with the person. You could reach out to them if it's a huge concern of yours, but that's very problematic. You could basically be asking the person like, hey, could you stop coming and buying stuff from me or bidding, and lose one of your major bidders. But ultimately, I'm going to tell you, wait it out. It does correct itself over time. Yes. Those people, either their credit cards get maxed out, they can't keep up with it, or you start getting the other buyers that are willing to pay for it. And the other thing is, before you start even get worried about it, are you selling what you want and getting the prices you want? If those two things are happening, then you really don't have to worry about it.
Right.
So.
What do you think, Tracy?
I don't have anything to add with that. I agree with both of you. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I wish I had that problem. I wish somebody would come and just, start buying up everything under the sun. I can't add anything more. I agree with both of what you said. We do have another question.
I can understand the concern, but I don't think you have to worry too terribly much.
Yeah.
Hey, and listen, I came out pretty strong with that. I don't care. I have had those customers come into my room. I have had a person to the point where other people were making comments, after 3 or 4 weeks of this person buying a large majority of my 400 auctions in a show. And I said exactly the same thing. Who cares?
Yeah.
I can't. I start my items at $1. I can't make it any lower. I can't make it any lower to entice bidding. And if it only gets to $6 or $7 or $8 and one person is totally happy paying that price, buy it all.
You could also use an opportunity to educate. I know we have other questions to get to, but it's one of those things now that I'm thinking about it and, a little bit more, you could tell people like, hey, if, this is an auction, you could put, custom bids in. Go do a custom bid to jump it, in order to solidify your chances of getting the item for the price you want it and knock them out from the bidding process. Yes. There's other strategies you could use instead of just sitting there and getting mad that they're outbidding you.
True.
And then the other aspect is, if you're here and enjoying yourself, then stick around and enjoy yourself.
Right.
So, but anyway, we got other questions we're going to get to?
We have another topic, which I think this is one that you touched on in your show this morning. So could a disclaimer about as is and associated verbiage be put in your show notes saying by bidding you're accepting these terms?
Can you put that in there? Is that what they're asking?
I think they're asking, can you put it in? But I would read into this a little bit more.
But
how do we enforce this? What's the whole concept? Kind of that as is problem we seem to be facing.
Okay. I'm passionate about this.
Yep.
So can you put it in there? Of course you can. Does it mean anything at this particular point in time? Not what it should mean. How do you enforce it? To be honest with you, that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to work through right now. There was, a time where I could, as part of the return and customer service program, I could deny return requests and this, but they always would just get overturned anyway. So essentially, our hands are tied at the moment. I don't want to give up hope that something's coming down the pike that's going to lend to us having a little more control over that attribute. But I've been talking about doing things like really leaning heavy into the education part. And that kind of comes into what we were talking about with the buyer-centric or seller-centric principle. This is where I will start being more seller-centric, where it's like, and I've started doing that. I started doing it first in the watch sales because I had so many problems with the as-is aspect. People paying a bunch of money, knowing that it may not be working, and they get it and it doesn't work and they want to return it. Mm-hmm. They want their cake and eat it too situation. I started literally stipulating that I will accept your return or refund, but we will no longer do business. Yeah. So you have to start educating everybody. I do a whole speech at the beginning, and every now and then throughout the sale, I reaffirm what my stance is. This is as is. I stick to it. I'm backed by law, Pennsylvania and state, state and federal law backs my position on this. So I may not be the seller for you, and that's fine. You always let everybody know that not every seller and buyer meet, but that's the way I'm going to be handling this. So please bid accordingly. I'm not disguising anything. I'm starting everything at $1. I'm not trying to influence you to pay more than I think that, like trying to sell you something that may not be working for, working condition prices. I lay all of that out. And right now, I think that's really the best thing you can do is work on that from a curation and understanding from while you build your buyer base. Make sure you're completely transparent and they understand where you stand on this stuff and how you're going to go about dealing with it. If they try to utilize the lax return policy to circumvent the law that's in place that's, protects you. Because we all know that we could go after them from the law, but it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not.
And they know that. That's why it happens. They know you're not going to go after anybody for a $50, $100, or $200 item. You're just going to deal with it. Not to mention they have enough vague verbiage in their terms of service that if you were to go after them, they'd probably boot you off the platform.
Or $1 or $3 item.
Yeah. So, but I just think the only way right now that there is to educate your buyer base and fulfill on that. Like I do. When somebody, and I'll tell them now, when somebody puts in for a return, I'm like, please understand our company policy is that we'll accept it. However, we will not be doing business in the future. Yeah. As politely as I can. And if that's you're okay with that, we'll accept it. If you're not okay with that, want to continue buying, then cancel the return or refund request.
Yep.
And actually, I will authorize it, and then it's up to them because they can opt to not return the item, and then it just basically cancels out.
Goes away.
So it's up to them to decide whether they want to return it or not. So, but I'm up for any other ideas on how to handle that situation because I'm like I said, I'm super passionate about that, and it's also because that's my business model, and I don't want to see my business model get so heavily, hammered. It feels to me like, I was saying, they're pushing people more towards that one direction, and cutting out certain auction perspectives and principles. So
I think education's the only way to go. I mean, I've been doing more and more of that, talking about as is in my shows and when I'm showing things. I'm in the middle of one of those right now. I sold something little, the knob didn't turn. I didn't know the knob didn't turn. It sold as is, So the customer reached out, hey, the knob doesn't turn. I'm like, okay, return it to me and I'll give you your money back. Now it's crickets. So I'm like, okay, well, then keep it. But it's the same thing. But at the same time, I did we do sell everything as is. So I just tried to take it as a teaching moment. I don't think there's any more we can do. I think a lot of the buyers come with that, Amazon mentality or the eBay mentality where if I don't like it, I could just return
100%.
it. So that's what we have to deal with. So I think it's up to Whatnot to do some education. They need to have our backs as sellers and do some education. And then us as sellers, we need to continue to educate. So I totally agree with that perspective. I don't know if there's anything more we could do.
No, it's kind of hard. It's rough because they give you the feeling like you're going to have an ability to do something. And they also have verbiage in their terms of service like you're buying, you're committing to the purchase, you're obligated to, and then they just let the person,
It's a contract.
Yeah. They say all of that. They say the right stuff in there, but they don't follow through on their on that end of things. But so again, I think we're on the same page as far as dealing with that right now. Your best bet is education, and then I agree. Whatnot needs to start educating or just be just tell us like that. Just tell us that that's not the case anymore. You're either you're not going to like it or you're going to be okay with it instead of just letting it hang out there the way it is right now.
I like one of the things you do, Jeremy, and I've kind of not copied word for word, but has started to implement it on certain items that I sell, is I've seen you before put something, a watch or anything that may have a moving part or a function to it, and you're like, bid accordingly. I don't know if this works or not, bid accordingly. And you're just kind of upfront. Yeah. You're letting them know, hey, here it is. So after watching that, I've started to implement that on certain items, kind of that same concept. Like, I'm giving you all the information.
Yeah, which is funny. And this comes down to education. As is basically supposed to have that perspective built into the statement itself. It's as is. It may have problems. Bid like bid that way, you know. Bid like there might be some issues.
There is a follow-up real quick, if I can follow up, because this kind of touches on it, Jeremy, and I think you might have a good point for this one. Do you think there should be a difference between as is for in-person live auctions versus online auctions where you can't see, touch, smell? Is there a difference?
No, you bid accordingly.
You bid accordingly.
No, you bid accordingly. The answer is the same. And I've had that argument. I'm like, you know what environment you're buying in, so bid accordingly. I don't care if you pay. I will always say, let's say at a regular auction, you get to go look at it and you're willing to pay $30 for it. Here, what are you willing to pay not having that comfort? Bid accordingly. And if you're not willing to pay anything, then you're risk adverse and I may not be the seller for you.
Yep.
It's that simple. You go and find the seller that's going to tell you every little thing and tell you that you can return it if it comes and you find something they didn't find, what they call call outs or shout outs or whatever. That doesn't happen in my show because it's as is. If somebody says, is there any call outs? I'm like, yes and no. It's as is. Whatever the call out is as is, and I have on there may have unknown damage. Bid accordingly.
Yep.
I had somebody that did that with clothing. At an auction, you can go do this. This isn't a standard auction, so don't apply standard auction principles to an online. You don't have the ability to do that.
Yep.
So you bid accordingly. And you go to the people that provide you with the information you want. And if you're comfortable taking a chance on stuff that I sell for $3 and $5 that's worth $30 and $50, and those people are happy with it, that they keep coming back. Okay. And then other people, that doesn't suit them. They get really bent out of shape if they spent $40 on something that they thought they were going to sell for $80, and then they get it, and there's a flaw in it, and they can only get $40 out of it. They can only recoup their money. They're angry at, they obviously would get angry at me about that, and they'll say things like that. Well, at an auction, I would have noticed that. Well, again, just please, you're self-aware of where you're at and how you're bidding. That's always going to be the answer.
Mm-hmm. Millicent's asked,
I would just throw
real quick, hold on.
You guys don't have any other perspectives on that? That's it? That's the end of
it? I was just going to throw something out there.
Okay.
On a live selling platform, I only have moments. In my environment, I only have moments. So I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show you the front. I'm going to show you the back. I'm going to tell you whether I can see anything, if I can see anything in those brief seconds that I have, because my goal is to run 400 items in a 5-hour show, right? So I need to get to 60, 70, 80 items an hour, which means I spend 30 seconds or so per item. So I'm going to show it to you the best I can. If you go on to a different platform, you're going to see, we're on YouTube. I can talk about eBay.
Yeah.
So if you go to eBay and you see this listing for this watch and they tell you, it works perfectly, there's no call outs, everything is fantastic. They show you 1,900 pictures of this item. Aren't you still taking a chance? Because you're not actually seeing it and holding it in your hand, and you're just taking it for granted that this person said it, and you're running the same risk of having to return it. But you paid more of the retail price for that eBay auction. And then you go to a second eBay auction where you see 2 pictures. They give no description, no real description. But what was the price? Are you comfortable paying $30 for that piece versus the same watch which had 1,900 pictures that now you're paying $400 for? Are you still willing on eBay to take a chance on a 2-picture item with no description for $30, knowing that it potentially is a $400 item? Most people, it's a yes, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. If you're a dealer, I know where you're going with it. And the other thing I do want to, and then we'll get into the next question
All right.
with this
Yeah.
specific topic. That also comes down to you as a seller and your comfort as a buyer with that seller, because there's
Yes.
people that you can tell are intentionally hiding something. Just like you said, if I see something, I'm going to say it.
Yes.
I don't want to upset customers.
Yes.
I just do as is for the protection of the system in which I sell, which is fast live sorting. That doesn't lend to lots of inspection.
Correct.
It's kind of, I mean, so you as a seller and that people understanding that you're willing to do it, because that's the times that I do allow cancellations. If there's bids on something and I'm showing it live and I'm like, oh wait, there's a crack here, I then say you can cancel it. And those are that's my rules are you can't cancel unless I verbally say so during the sale.
Right.
So that's where the comfort in my rooms I think come from. So that question, it still comes down to bid accordingly. Realize whose rooms you're in, your comfort level with the seller, and all that should determine whether or not you're willing to bid a certain amount on it. Just know your place and bid accordingly.
I
Okay,
think you make a good point. You said the comfort level, and I was going to kind of pitch in with trust, which I think equates to the same thing as your comfort level.
Yeah.
So for me, being more of a niche, curated seller, those call-outs are important to me to build trust with my audience. So,
absolutely.
I mean, I actually have a process in place where, when I'm curating a show, if there are call outs, I try to, when I'm looking at it, cleaning the items, getting them ready, mark them with painter's tape so that when I bring them up, it mentally, reminds me, oh, wait, I saw a little crack or I saw a little chip here so that I can talk about that. But it's a different style of selling for me. I mean, I know we're all selling online, but it's a different style. I mean, I'm doing small curated shows. And in order to get the highest bids on mine, it's not volume. I'm not basing mine on volume. I'm basing it on, 50, 60 items that I want to get the highest bids on. If I want to for the new buyers, they don't know me from Adam. They don't know nothing except there's some girl up there selling something. So me being completely transparent helps build that trust with the new people until they get a chance to experience shopping with me for a while, and then that trust becomes more innate. But at the beginning, they don't know me from anything. So I feel my communication as a seller, and kind of going back to the buyer-centric here, and walking them through that and disclosing everything I can helps in that process. But I think it really depends too if you're volume or not. I think there's a big difference in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll relate this to us a little bit. I mean, in the beginning, we sold health and beauty, and I took the time to go over the package on camera. We inspected it. We made sure it wasn't open. We made sure it wasn't expired, and we took the time for that on every package. As I get into jewelry, if I take a piece of jewelry and I show it on the camera and then say, oh, it's missing stones or it's broken or in some manner, I'll show that. I'll still run it for the $1, or we'll just throw it straight into craft. The difference, and I will come to Jeremy with this, the difference is a few nights back, we ran our first watch show. I had all these watches that came in lots over the past few months, and we had a whole banana box filled with watches, and Lysandra's like, Tony, it's time to sell watches. And I was like, oh, do I really want to get into a watch show? I don't know, because I've heard so much of it from Jeremy. It's like, I don't know. I ended up having a really good group of people, that all new buyers. We sold 40 orders, and I think 31 of those orders were new customers for I Love Discounts. It was fantastic. But in the middle of that, I did have one person who requested cancellation, never said anything. And I just turned it around and I said, look, I'm selling everything for $1. I'm showing it to you the best I can. I never stated as is, but in my own way, I'm describing as is to the customers in the room. An hour or so later, he sent a message asking us to reverse the cancellation order and just let it go through. But again, I had all of these new people. So I think the time spent in there allowed the trust to happen for me as a seller with the watches, just showing them, if it worked, I showed it, hey, look, this one's working. Hey, look, these are not. I have no idea. I made it very clear that I know nothing about this product other than what I can show you on the screen. So, I'm never going to take the time to clean and inspect and show all the callouts like Tracy does. I can't in a volume environment.
No,
And I'm not saying Tracy's way of selling is bad. Tracy has done really well with what she's done on Whatnot.
I honestly think Tracy's way of selling is more viable for the vast majority of people.
100%.
The thing is, I think that's the more viable option when people sit down and decide that's, I want to do this.
Yes.
What can fit with a larger amount of people. It's just that what we do, people see, and that if for some reason, it's something people want to shoot for and go for, and that's fine. But I think there's a smaller cross section of people that have a lifestyle or a mentality to be able to make that work.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of got off a topic there, but
you make a good point though, because it's very confusing, and I've fallen into that myself. Like, I'll watch your sterling, like you sell sterling silver, and I'll watch a show, and I'm like, I can never get those prices. I can sell almost an identical piece and get half the thing, but it's a different style. It's a different group of people. It's a different customer base. There's so many differences, but it's just coming into Whatnot and just flipping through shows. We're all listed in the same screen, So it making those distinctions between those selling styles, it really takes some thought. And from the buyer's perspective, they're just watching shows. So unless you're really sitting back thinking about it, so when you become a seller, you're watching these, and if you're not really analyzing it, that comparison starts creeping in and it gets all mixed up.
Yeah, and here's the problem with that. That is the recency bias kick in so hard with that. You're talking about a piece of jewelry that I get twice what you can. I guarantee you there's a ton of stuff I sell that I'm not getting some of the prices you get in the style and manner in which you sell. But everyone gets stuck on they got 3 times what I could for that, and that's all they focus on. They don't pay attention. They're not paying attention. It's because they're familiar with that type of that item, so it sinks in with them. They're like, I had that thing, and he got 3 times as much. They're not paying attention to the things that they didn't ever deal in that I'm getting dollars, in comparison to hunt. Like in watches. There's people that I sold those gold watches the other day, there's people that are watch sellers on here. Put those up, they're going to get twice what I did for them.
Yeah.
But then there's another watch that I sold, and I apparently got really good money for it. And people were like, somebody was like, man, I wish I could get that kind of money for those watches. So, I mean, it all comes out in the end, it all washes out in the end, but it's just, it's hard. I mean, that's just a natural human behavior principles that kick in when you just see something selling for way more than you can imagine. I do that. Like I hardly go on earlier and the Whatnot. I'd go on and watch certain people selling, and I'm like, they're getting full blown retail.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking at the entire picture. Right. You see, in that specific environment, they were getting full value for, and then there's other times you go in later on when you actually have some time to revisit said sellers. And you see that they're just like, almost everybody else. Some stuff they get way more for, and some stuff they don't, because they curated a crowd towards a certain direction. So, but it still gets stuck in your head. You're like, I want to do that. That's great. Because there's people, I just heard it today. I bought those booths and sold out of there. There's people that think I made so much money off of that. And that's not the case at all. Like, did I make money off of it? Yeah. Did I make some? No. I made what I call, your standard inventory, for my business, standard inventory margin. Sure. That's all I made on after paying all the logistical driving up there and transporting stuff and shipping stuff. It's like all the stuff people don't pay attention to, But was I getting good prices for some of that stuff? Yeah. Some days, maybe I was, but in comparison to previous days there, I was getting way less. So diminishing returns kicked in, but no one pays attention to that. They pay attention to the first day when all the excitement and buzz and people are paying way higher prices. And then they go into that's their anchor. That's where they're stuck. So
And the main thing on that, Jeremy, is no one knows what you paid for it to begin with.
no, they all just think I'm
Period.
printing money. Actually,
Period.
the one person was a relative involved, and I just heard through the grapevine that they thought that I was making too much money off of it.
Gotcha. Oh, so they came in to watch the show and
Yeah.
they knew what you paid for it, but they didn't watch the subsequent shows and all the extra stuff that's left over, or how much you had to pay the employees to
or
be
the
there.
fact that even to get those prices, I had to be on Whatnot for 5 years.
And that's where I was going with this, is that
5
you
years.
know, we are in the day of an instant gratification society. So they want to, hit that go live button and be as successful as what they're seeing. They're looking at Jeremy 5 years into the making, not Jeremy day one. So, and this is part of the problem. They come in and they see people being successful, and that's what they're comparing themselves to, versus they don't see all the hard work and the years and the late nights and everything that went to get to that point.
100%.
And Jeremy and Green 13, day one, did we make money on stuff we sold? Yes, but did we make as much as we could have selling on other platforms in comparison to the time that we were attributing towards the different platforms? No, we could have made way more. So in essence, we lost a ton of money front loading on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like selling stuff essentially at way lower profit margins, and we weren't doing the volume. It was just all in understanding the potential of the platform.
Yep.
And we've been through it, and that's the part nobody wants to deal with.
Right.
Everyone, like you said, everyone wants the instant gratification, the instant success, and that's why you hear me. You need to build a foundation. It's not fun. It's slow. It's methodical. It involves losing money, painful, lessons to be learned. Mistakes are going to be made all over the place, but everybody doesn't, you don't want that. But that is where, that's where the success is created on here. That's the only way you're going to be successful in live selling, going through those problems, and dealing with them.
They come in and they see, people come into my show, and I'm nowhere near the size that you guys are, but they'll come into my show. I'm on chapter 15. Like, you didn't see me at chapter 1 where I'm budgeting $200 out of my personal money to put into my business each month. And then it was $500.
Exactly.
And now I'm breaking even, and I can, take money from the business and buy the inventory. They don't see all that. They see chapter 15. They don't see 1 through 14. So.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But at the same time, everybody, you building those chapters is what the buy-in for the people. They love the story, they love the build, and that's where you get your long-term buyers. Again, those are the principles that get you to where you need to be.
Absolutely.
You can't shortcut that. That's the social value that's on here. Is that the travel? The whole, like, it's the traveling, not the destination type of thing. They like to come along for the story. They like to come along for the ups and the downs.
Absolutely.
And if you shortcut all that, you're not going to have it. So it's kind of a self-defeating principle to go after that in a shortcut manner, because it's not going to be successful. It's not going to work for you. So
It's not.
So going way back to our question, more of a comment from Millicent. We're going way back to your as-is sales, Jeremy. And Millicent said, the oopsie card may need rethinking. Confuses that a little. So your approach to as-is and the oopsie cards, I don't know if you want to explain how you work that, or
confuses the as-is a little.
I think so. I think that's what she was saying.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that was put in there before I explained that I allow for a cancellation when I discover an issue on the live, and the oopsie card is designed to keep the system going and let them determine whether they want to cancel or not. It's there, one, to help solidify or keep a sale, create a second sale as a result of an unfortunate event.
Yes.
I don't know how that would be. I'm trying to think where. Yeah, it was put in prior. Yeah.
She said, I was just about to put in, yes.
So, I could see it, but it's in the delivery. and that's the way it's delivered. If you watch, it's just like, okay, we noticed this. You can take the oopsie card if you want. You can cancel or take it. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's so I can keep the flow going. It's a quick way for me to address an issue and give a solution for them to decide on. And I'm telling you right now, anybody that does as is, I would highly recommend utilizing a technique like that, because it a lot of times, especially on the lower priced items, you're not, you make some okay money off of it, but it's damaged. They're willing to keep it. You give them a coupon, they come back and buy more. They appreciate it. And also they appreciate the fact that if they don't want that, they can cancel it. If it's something they, think they paid way too much for and a mystery discount isn't worth it for them. And then there's also the principle that it's a coupon that you can only use once. So like if somebody is a repeat customer, which is a flaw in that, I have to actually go back and create additional. Like I need to stop the oopsie cards that I have now, create a new one with another code on it, and kind of cycle it through so it at least becomes beneficial. Or have like 3 or 4 of them. So if someone says like I've already received one, then I know to give them the the second one. But either way, it's that's one of those things that just happened by accident. And that's also one of those things where I tell you, like we were just talking about being on here in order to develop the effectiveness of things like that. It took 5, it was 4 years in before the oopsie card ever came out, turned into an option. Anyway, I think that's pretty much the breakdown.
A little squirrel here, just because you mentioned the oopsie card is coupon based, basically is what it is. Have you noticed now on the coupons, it used to be it's for everybody or first time buyers to you. Now they have first time whatnot buyers. They have a third option, which they've just added recently. I've seen it maybe in the last week. I did not notice that. Yeah, so it kind of opens the door for a little more creative uses. So
that's like going to be something where you try to promote on.
Like maybe
you're trying to promote outside of whatnot to bring them on.
Yeah.
Why can't you just give me the ability to provide a coupon for a specific buyer?
That would be so nice.
I think that might be resource intensive. But
you wasted resources on plenty of other things. That one's not that big a deal.
Yeah. But now I do create ones. I mean, you can't limit it to one buyer, but I will. Sometimes it's kind of my version of an oopsie card. If I notice something on the back end when I'm going to pack that there was a problem that I didn't disclose, I will contact them and create a coupon in their name and send it. And then when I see them use it, I can deactivate it. But then I also can track it super easy. I know if I send it to Sue and Sally uses it, hey, what's going on here?
Correct. Yeah. And that's how we handle our chubby bucks, the same manner. Create it, give them something unique, and then deactivate it when we see it used. But
my philosophy. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but if I get 12 raids in a show, now we're creating 12 coupons during that show that need to be used during that show, and you got to manage it behind the scenes. And then the people who don't use it, not hearing that they need to use it during the show, are you trying to give it to them later? No, I'm not. But it's the back end management of something that's supposed to be nice, easy, and painless and fun for the customers.
Yeah, what I utilize coupons, the way I implement them, is to make sure the percentage or however the discount is a discount that I actually don't care if people share it.
Correct.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
God forbid you should come buy from me and bring other people to spend money in my and you think you're getting away with knock yourself out. You're pissing me off. Go give my coupon to a bunch of people.
And if my coupons were 5% off of your purchase, yes, I'm with you there. But mine is $10.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Like I specifically make sure when I utilize coupons, that's the way I try to make sure that they're done in a fashion that if they get shared, I don't care. I actually toyed with the idea at some point of having but I start getting into these ideas that have a lot of back end tracking, and I realize that it's just not going to work for me. But anybody else could take this if they decide they want to try this. Create a coupon where I reward the person that handed out the most. Have like a competition type of thing where it's like, okay, you get whatever mechanism causes you to get a coupon in your name, and whoever gives their named coupon out the most, that gets used the most, gets a reward at the end of the said time frame. I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. I think that'd be fun. Let do some marketing, but the back, I just don't want to deal with the back.
That's a lot of management going on there. What did Millie say here? Seeing people use them as giveaways now for a future show. Correct. And yes, and I mean, we're talking about the Chubby Bucks giveaway coupon thing. Yes, currently it is specific in TOS for the same show. There's always people who are giving them away for future shows, and it's not allowed, and it's either going to change or they're going to get smacked down one way or another. I know we got a lot of grief on the front end of that when we started doing it, because I wasn't just necessarily holding true to just that show. We would give it to them for like the whole week, and that way if you didn't see anything in the next hour and a half, then hey, I'll give you a break and come to the next show. I wanted to turn that person into a buyer one way or another, but no, it's same show, and that's what it is. That's what TOS says. So sorry about your luck.
That's it.
No, it's
final thoughts on coupons. No more.
Yeah. What's that?
I said that's it. Final thoughts on coupons. Is that?
I mean, if we're just talking coupons in general, I think it's a something everybody that sells on should give. I mean, there's a lot of creative stuff you can do with
100%.
it. I think when people are always like, should I try different things? I think one of the things that's very easy to go to that everybody understands is trying to get a little creative with coupons. I think that should be one of the first things that you can control and implement and track as a new seller. Like I was saying, the stuff I want to do would involve all kinds of extra tracking and keeping spreadsheets and stuff in order to create some type of competitive, thing to go out and market for me by giving my coupon out. I wouldn't suggest doing that, but definitely for newer sellers. And I've used them. I still use them, and I plan on using them in the future. I don't think there's ever going to be a time I don't utilize them in some way, shape, or form. So, but that's my final. I mean, I don't know if there's any more to talk about with coupons.
I've done something different with coupons, and Lysandra's in the chat there saying she loves what I do with my coupons. So I think I have them here. So yeah, I do. I've done something different.
Yes,
so I've kind of taken your card idea and I have created rewards cards. So there's 9 a quarter. So right now I have 9. Each one has a coupon code on the back. It's worth $2 individually. So yeah, it goes out in every package. You get this, you can save $2. Then every show I take 2 random cards and I mix them together. It's in the show notes. So if you put card 2 and whatever this other one together, those codes together, that's worth $5 for that show, only for that show. So the more you buy, the more cards you get, the more money you're going to save in the future. Then after this quarter, we'll have another set of 9, but we'll start doing combinations of 3 cards later on in the year, which is worth even more money. So kind of builds throughout the year. I like it. It's working great so far. I'm seeing really good utilization. It's not costing me a whole lot. So it's going good so far. We'll see.
You're allowing coupon stacking.
I am coupon stacking.
Right?
That's exactly it.
I think. Well, I remember you saying this before. I think that's a great. I mean, that's an amazing idea. It's something that you can strategically put into place. It doesn't require a lot of extra work. Like you just, everything you just said, simple, upfront, and the track it is built right into the system.
A very fantastic way of being buyer-centric.
Very buyer-centric. I do have a thought on coupons. This is something that I didn't realize, and I just thought it was really interesting. So for like a whole year, last year, I'm big on coupons. I use coupons in multiple different ways. And I, for the longest time, would only do % off. As a CPA, I'm like, accountant, 10% off, and then the more you buy, the more you save. To me, that makes sense. But then I started polling the chat and asking questions, and overwhelmingly, nobody wanted percent off. They wanted like $5 off or $2 or I'm like, but you can save more. Like this is more to your advantage. Overwhelming. So to the point where I have switched, I don't do percent off anymore. I do dollar off. They seem to want it more. People, which to me doesn't make sense, but that's in response to the feedback I received.
Yeah. Here's my perspective on that. I think it's kind of hard. One of the things that is detrimental to the percent off coupon is because of that fact that they can save more, they're hesitant to utilize the coupon. And I had somebody recently in my show that loaded I did the cards where they get the coupon that I have for the 12 card series that we're doing, where they can send in the pictures of the front and the back of the cards, the thank you cards, essentially the order cards that we send out. It's pretty deep. I think it's like 25% off of a purchase. It's our biggest, but I had somebody that loaded it and didn't know how to take it out. So they literally avoided buying something or bidding on something for weeks.
Yep.
Because they didn't
waiting for that one magic item that they're going to save 25% off on.
So that's an extreme example of what I'm talking about. But because of that sliding scale of value, they think, oh, I better, save this. Now that's in one situation. Now I think in that situation that I developed that process of utilizing the percentage offs, where I did the rewards program. I gave people so many small percentage off to entice that, like, it didn't matter. They weren't running out. They weren't saving it. They weren't like, oh, I'll use this one and I have another one. I'll use that and then I have another one.
Right.
So I think it's really, depending on how you utilize it. I'm not concerned about the feedback from it, because as we all know, they'll tell you what they think they want, and what actually they're going to do with it are very frequently two different things. You always do things that you consciously say but unconsciously do. And I think the percent off, to me, if it's given in quantity, is going to be better than the dollar off. And on a singular perspective, I think the dollar off, if you're giving them in like what you're talking about, smaller chunks, I think they're going to want that, because it's like, I know I'm saving this much. I don't have to think about it. Everyone hates math, or even the concept of like you said, you're an accountant. You're like, my brain says percentages are easy. If I pay this much, it's good. That's not everybody. Everyone's just like, now I got to determine whether I want to use it here or over here. And then if I use it here and then something else came, I'm going to feel like I lost money. It leaves a lot of the potential negatives on the table, where the dollar amount doesn't. It's just flat out. The only way you lose it is if you give a $5 coupon and they bid on something for $1, right?
Yep. Yeah. But I like it too. It makes it easy for me to sell it when it's dollars off. I can say, hey, if you combine these two codes today, you get $5 free. $5 to spend, basically.
Yeah.
Aaron asked a question. Aaron, to answer your question, a coupon code can only be used once and whatnot. So once you use the code, that card is invalid to you. But now, like if you use a code on card 2, that code itself, just that one for $2 is invalid. But when you mix 2 and 3 together, that's a whole new code, or 2 and 8, or 8 and 2. I mean, you end up having enough. I run shows 3 to 4 times a week. And with 9 cards, I have more than enough combinations of numbers for every single show where I can offer a new code every single show. Jeremy, there's a question for Jeremy. Jeremy, how does collecting the order cards work?
My suggestion is you ask me on, instead of taking up podcast time, just ask me on Whatnot the next show, and I'll explain it, because it'll be mutually beneficial for everybody. Right here, while we're doing this, it's I want to keep the discussion going about generalized topics instead of me specifically on Whatnot. Hopefully you don't take any offense to that, but just shoot the question tomorrow. If you jump in the show, just ask and I'll explain it all to you in detail.
I was just laughing because in those Whatnot shows, he says, come to the podcast and we'll answer the question. Now in the podcast, he's saying, come to the Whatnot show.
Ask the generalized questions.
I know.
Not Green 13 specific questions. I mean, I appreciate the ask and I'll answer it if you want. I'm just trying to be respectful of everybody that's here. That's.
I agree 100%. It just gave me a chuckle. That's all.
I know.
Anything else in there, Tracy?
I don't see any other questions. So what else is on your mind?
I really don't. I don't know what else we're going to talk about. I mean, I don't know if we got stuff we want to go back to as far as the buyer versus seller centric, or if there's anything that you are stirring around in your head, or if we're just going to see if we can get some more people in here. Because if you ask me what I'm going to go to, I'm just going to gripe about return policies and stuff. And I don't.
Okay, everybody who's here with us tonight, what's on your mind? Let's go that way. You tell us, what do you want to hear? So here we go. Where is the white over? Oh, it looks like Narnia. Yeah, it needs a white blanket. I don't know about you guys. It's snowing here. It is nasty outside.
Oh yeah, it is starting to kind of lay. It's not too bad here yet, but
yeah,
we had a little bit of flurries today in southern Kentucky, but it's cold. I'm not a fan.
Battle of the Best. We talked about that.
We did?
Well, I mean, before the show.
We were talking about it before the show.
Oh, yeah, there's a congratulations in order there.
Yeah, there is.
Somebody, the winner of the Battle of the Best.
Ooh, it only took 13 months to get there.
Hey, I mean, that could open a... I mean, did we talk about that a little bit in the past? I always forget what we talked about that we should talk about. Like raid trains. Did we ever even... Did we touch on that in the past?
We've not really talked much about it. Yeah,
like
not
the
really.
last 5 or 10 minutes of the last week's show. I mean, it was very brief.
Yeah, okay.
We do have a question first. If we want to answer this question, then maybe we can switch over to raid trains. Aaron says, can you help me with my balance of a good time and running quickly? I'm trying to speed up, but I'm afraid to lose his essence, his environment, his Aaronness.
Aaron, I'm going to start this because I'm in your show a lot, and I'm going to tell you one thing. And I've already mentioned it to you in the past, and you shut it down, but I'm going to tell you right now, sudden death. You do not, in your typical show as it sits right now, you do not get a lot of multiple biddings on an item. Drop those things down to 3-second sudden death. Get your 1 or 2 bids that you would typically get. Move on to the next thing. And you will literally increase your run time per hour by 2 to 3 times. And instead of 15 seconds per item, drop it down to 3-second sudden death, 5-second sudden death, whatever floats your boat, and you will triple your run time per hour.
From being outside of this, Tony obviously apparently has personal experience. I don't.
I love Aaron's show. Well, I'm in it all the time.
So, I don't know what Aaron's, what that means. If it means what I would interpret it as, which is you and your personality and what you bring, then I wouldn't. If you think any change is going to alter that, then I would work more on excelling from a different perspective. Like work more on, because it all comes down to the bottom line, okay? Like the amount of money you make. You might be the type of person that should be looking to make more money through better sourcing options, different pricing points or whatever, looking at it from that perspective if you're worried you're going to lose your Aaronness. But I don't have the experience Tony has. So obviously probably what Tony's telling you, because Tony goes into your shows, would be better advice to take. But
Lysandra just typed it in the chat. She said Aaron suffers from the Cheers environment.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
There's nothing, and that's the environment, exactly what I talk about, that you adopt more like what Tracy has, selling principles, and look at it from, like I said, the sourcing perspective, or trying to figure out how to get different, higher price points in other manners than just trying to run volume principles. If your crowd is more curated towards a non-volume, don't try to make it a volume. But I mean, I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing that. If that's where you want to go, then the reality is you might have to reevaluate what Aaronness is. But
I've got a suggestion, Aaron, for you, and this is just off the top of my head thought. But from the times I've been in your show, I've seen you'll tell stories. Like, you tell great stories. And I think that's part of what your crowd loves so much. But when you're telling a story, you can't sell. So to me, then the problem becomes, how do you monetize your storytelling? So what about creating a bundle or a product that you pin? You're like, oh, it's story time. Make it into an event, make it into that part of your show, but there's something special you're selling during story time. And all you're doing is pinning it there so that your customers start to come up with the thought of, oh, he's going into a story. What special item is he putting on the screen to look at? And I'm not talking like buying a whole new category of stuff, but what can you do with what you have that you could put it together in a different way or offer it in a different way in some type of bundle or something that you just pin to the bottom while you're telling your story. So you're still selling, but you're not losing that essence of what everybody loves about your show. Just an idea.
If I may interrupt, because
No.
I mean, we're talking about different things, but I think I have a little bit of the celebration for Tony.
Oh, what did you do? What graphic did you do?
Oh no.
Here comes something. I'm not seeing nothing.
I can't see it because I have everything
No, we
covered.
can't see. I'm going to take a quick moment to say, hi, Michelle, Sassy Vintage Chick. I saw your thing, and hi, Good Stuff. I saw you guys, and I was just waiting for a moment to recognize you and say hello. Thank you for coming to our YouTube.
Sorry, it didn't come through.
That's okay. Save it for a whatnot thing.
Welcome to my life.
Hey, it was a long shot, but I tried.
So, is there any remaining questions, or do we want to? I don't want to feel like we keep saving raid trains for a leftover conversation.
I know, but we have 20 minutes. I think 20 minutes is
We do.
a decent
I think 20
conversation on
minutes is
raid
fine time.
trains.
And I think we're going to have varying opinions on it, so why not?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Who's
that's
starting?
fine with me. You are. You
I'm
just got.
starting.
Weren't you just on one before we started today?
We both were.
And you
Tony and
just
I both
won
were,
one,
yeah.
so I
I
think one of the two of you should start.
Hey, listen. I'll start. I love raid trains. I have so much fun with raid trains. Not to mention, I Love Discounts typically gets marketed to a whole new audience because we are typically in raid trains in different categories doing different things. I would be hard pressed to see me say many negative things about raid trains, except for being on a specific one too often. Because once you kind of use up your marketing ability to new customers, then are you still having fun with it, or have you overstayed your welcome? But that's why, I've told Lysandra I want to be on many different types of raid trains, but we typically only do a couple a month. But I told her this month that I want to be on more of them. That way I'm not necessarily focused just on the jewelry. We have opportunities and do other things that just from our side keep it alive a little bit rather than getting in the day-to-day grind of just jewelry. So that's my initial thoughts about raid trains.
So my thoughts are, I love them for marketing purposes or meeting, getting exposed to new people. I have cut way back. Now, last year, my goal was, I said yes to almost every single raid train last year. And towards the end of the year, I was getting burnt out on it. And we had Noelle and I had some hard conversations of, is this really fit into our plan? Is this really where we want to be? And every time I do a raid train, it takes away from what I'm doing in my business and my shows. I have to make time for that train, whether I'm sourcing or I'm preparing for it and then I'm packing for it. So every time I say yes to a raid train takes away from what I'm doing and for my own business. So this year, I'm not saying no to them completely because I think there is a value in them. It is a social app that's part of the social community within Whatnot. However, if they don't fit into my strategic plan, I'm either doing them for sellers who have been very supportive of me and then they come and ask me to be in their train for some reason because they think I'm bigger than I am. So I do it more as you've supported me, I'm going to support you. But even then, I'm very selective about it. Or it's a relational. There's, a handful of people that are kind of, they're influential people on Whatnot, and I want to be involved with it, and it gets my name out there, and it's very strategic marketing focused.
Yes.
So from a point of being on raid trains, if it fits into where I'm going, so it's either kind of a community support thing or it's a marketing network type situation. I'm not doing them just to do them anymore. Where last year I did them just to do them. They're fun. I enjoy it, but I've really just tightened the reins myself on if it doesn't fit a specific purpose for me. I say no to it now. Now that's being on them. Conducting them is completely different. When you're conducting a rain trade, your name is mentioned every single show more than one time. It's on the it's on the thumbnails. It is purely a marketing, and there I think you have to be very strategic in who you align yourself with. That's very important. You don't just go and align yourself with somebody to conduct a train until you know the trustworthiness, the character of the people you're aligning yourself with. So be very careful in who you're aligning yourself with in conducting trains. But once you get those people, they can be very beneficial. Again, it's marketing.
Yeah. I think that's a note to take into consideration from not only conducting but participating, because it's the guilty by association or birds of a feather flock together type of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you need to take stock of the conductor, and then as a conductor you have to take stock of who you're allowing on the train.
Yeah.
And I'm very came to the same conclusions. I'm just a little more extreme about it than Tracy as far as going on the raid trains. I don't like to say anything bad about it. That just doesn't fit with my business model and becomes more of a disruption than it does a help. And I've always said this too: if you're going to partake in them or you're interested in them, look at them for what they are. In my personal opinion, they're an event. The people are there for the event. Don't have huge expectations. Look at it as a money-making opportunity. You go in, make your money, and anything else that happens as a result is just an added bonus. If you get repeat buyers, if you get follow, all that, as long as you go in with that as your expectation, you're not going to be disappointed. Because I know tons of people think that raid trains are an avenue to success on here. And they're not. They are not. Because people are there for the event. They're not there for you. And you're setting off a certain expectation, a false expectation, because you are abiding by the rules of the raid train, so that people don't see who you are and what you have to offer the way you would offer it. So they get a different version of you than what they would. So that can create confusion. That can also create an element of disappointment that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So just, take all that into consideration before you just decide to jump on a bunch of raid trains.
I think that would be determined by your definition of success. Honestly, I feel like you could probably build a viable business on Whatnot just doing raid trains. There are so many of them going on right now that you could be selling every day in a raid train to different people. It doesn't help you build up you as a person, like you were saying, and I don't disagree with that at all. But just from a moving product point of view to a larger quantity of people than you probably could get in your room starting up.
My concern with that viewpoint is you have another layer of non-controlling your business. If you start not getting invited to raid trains, like you already have the app as a control point for your success on here.
Sure.
Okay. And then you're building another layer of that by depending on other people's trains in order to make money instead of just on you. And I'm not saying it's not a potential viable. I just, that aspect would make me not suggest it to anybody because you're removing a large control for your success.
And New Beginnings, we see your question. I'm not ignoring you. We're going to get to you in just a second. I got to answer that. I wholeheartedly disagree with you, Tony, in the most respectful and friendly manner. I I so firmly believe that you have to create the strategy and the plan for your business, that if your business fully depends on somebody else's strategy and plan, because the raid train is their strategy, it's their plan. And if my business totally is in somebody else's hands, and not just one person, we have like, how many raid trains? 10, 15, 20 you're going to be on a month? So I have 20 different people telling me which direction I'm taking my business. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a recipe for disaster. That's just my opinion. Michelle, real quick,
I don't think that's too far from my perspective there.
Probably not.
Kind of the same thing.
Michelle does say that smaller sellers who are part-time and can't run long shows, raid trains are perfect and builds confidence. I totally agree, Michelle, in the sense that I think raid trains for new sellers, and this is why I run a new seller raid train, is to push them outside their comfort zone, to let them learn the etiquette, help them, run something for $1, list something, do a random poll. I mean, the rules on my raid train for a new seller is you have 20 minutes and you're going to try new things, because you need to push all the buttons and do all the things to figure out what you really want to do. So I do agree with that. I just don't think it's good full business model.
No, and I think it's still, you want to go into all raid trains with the appropriate expectations. Right. And I think a lot of people, actually, I know a lot of people go in thinking they're a way to success on here. Yeah. So
can we just answer this question real quick? Just because someone took the time to put it in, I do want to try to answer it. It is shipping, so we may not really get deep into this. We have 15 minutes, and shipping is a whole 2 to 10 hour discussion in itself. So the question is, New Beginning says, okay, so I have done so much research and have a great idea about shipping and how to set it up. Can you chat about your little items? So I'll start off really quick. Whatnot has a great system. Don't mess with it. Let's just keep it simple. Whatnot really has a good system. Don't mess with it. The only time you really should be messing with it is if you are doing, after you have experience, after you can go back and look at your data and know the numbers and know what it costs you, a reduced shipping model where you may want to pick one weight to go with, or free shipping, or by chance you're selling something really large and you need to set up a custom profile for something. But even that, my 2 years on Whatnot, I think I've done like 1, maybe 2 custom profiles. I pretty much let Whatnot do it. I pick my weight and go with it. So I think people overthink shipping, and they try to create all these scenarios to get around it. Just use what Whatnot gave you. It's really good. That's all I have to say.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
You want me to talk about shipping?
Yeah, go real quick. Come on, give something.
I just don't. I mean, just so people that aren't familiar with me, the shipping technicals, I don't ever really get into. I actually do mess with, when it comes to shipping, different profiles as testers for the style and speed at which I sell things, coupled with the fact that I do free shipping. So I got to mess around with some things till I found my comfort zone of what works and what scenario, because I sell everything from sales of all jewelry, and then I like my Friday sale or special event type of things that I do where I'm selling large stuff, small stuff, and everything in between in a sale. And so I still try to accomplish things with averages, which is not what people, the majority of people don't really have the mentality for that. They don't. It's one of the things that creates a frustration for a lot of people, and they don't understand when you're going to be on this platform selling. And when it comes to shipping, Tracy is 100% correct that your best bet when you get on here is just don't make it a bigger deal than it needs to be. And a lot of people do, because of the same thing we talked about earlier, where they go and watch people like me or some of these other volume sellers that are playing the game from a completely different perspective of willing to lose tons of money on shipping. I'll tell you right now, last year, I've done a ton of free shipping. And how many people have the backbone to do this? I looked at my numbers. $155,000 in shipping costs is what I spent last year.
Not surprised.
So I'm just saying, like, that's not the normal, that's not the normal trend for people to be okay and comfortable with. Your brain doesn't, that takes time and effort and building a business over the long term to get to that point. So the majority of the people on this app are not on for 4 or 5 years. So get used to, like what Tracy's saying, use what they have, and then leverage the options once you're completely familiar. And like we always talk about, until you have your baseline, you don't know if your ideas are working or not, if they're bringing in any extra money. We used what was provided. And then once we knew where we were with our numbers, then you can start messing with it. So you know whether it's even producing anything beneficial when it comes to ideas for shipping, different shipping strategies.
Yes. Free shipping is not for the faint at heart.
Not at all.
No, it's not.
What
it's not.
Did someone? Oh, someone just saying wow about the number I threw out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say this real quick on shipping. I am also not going to get into a lot of specifics on shipping. One, it's 820. Two, I don't know what you're selling. I don't know how you're selling it. I don't know how you're shipping it. I don't know how you want your profile to be set up. What I will say is this. If you have done your research and you've learned about shipping, the best thing you can do is create a private show, set up some shipping profiles, how you want to test some shipping, have someone else come into the show. I don't care if it's your spouse, your mom, your dad, it doesn't matter who it is. Buy 2 or 3 items, refund them the money, and see what your shipping looks like at the end of it. And work out your kinks that way. That way you're not going into a live show, selling 200 items, losing your rear end on the back end on shipping because you didn't know what you were doing or how to do it. But it has to be in a private show, not in a rehearsal show. We use those private shows all the time.
Come on, man. Colossal money losers are the best teachers, Tony.
I know, but my hope is that we save them a little bit of that colossal money loser.
I'm obviously, I'm joking, but not. But that's me. That's my personality in the way.
Yes, and Jeremy's 100% right. Most people learn by losing, right, or doing something bad, or failing at something. And I am a person that you just get on there and go. We started Whatnot with 2 weeks knowledge of Whatnot. And our first show, it took us 4 days and my wife crying for shipping. It was bad. We didn't know anything about it. But the thing is, you learn. Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, you can learn that way if that's how you learn and that's how you want to do it. Or you can go in a private show and set up a few shipping profiles and test it out yourself before you go crazy.
And as many sellers
but they don't
as
teach
there
you that
are,
either.
Yeah, and as many sellers as there are on Whatnot, there's that many opinions on how you should ship. So
100%.
You're never going to hear the same thing, and you're going to hear some of the more risky, unethical ways of doing it. You're going to hear, very conservative, rule-following ways. At the end of the day, Whatnot has a pretty decent video of shipping information. And there's a couple of sellers out there who are legit, like people you could trust and you can listen to. You got to pick and choose, but start at Whatnot. Go read what they have. Go look through all the videos they have. It's really not a complicated system. And, I don't know. I don't know how to say this nicely. Just, you don't have to listen to all the advice that's out there. Yeah. Go to the source, read what they have, and start there.
Yeah, and build what works for you.
Yes.
And, and we're all, I think all of us are in the same, we've all said similar things. You can't know what type of shipping strategy works until you know what the basics provide for numbers. Until you just flat out use the what's there, you don't, how could you don't have the data? All you can do is listen to other people telling you, but that data could be, it's what works for them. Like Tracy was saying, and the way they sell, and that's not you. So do the basics and then start testing and experimenting with different profiles and different strategies.
And that's why I like the little private show, because you can gather a small amount of data with no real cost, no hurting your bottom line. And you can just go and test it and see what happens.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Control environment.
Controlled environment. Yep. Private show is a great idea for not just shipping, for anything you need to test. It's a wonderful way to test. My emails, which are numerous from Whatnot, informed me. Oh, okay. Yes. There you go. Great.
Well, that's good.
Yes. All right. We are getting down to our last final minutes. Are there any last questions before we log off for the night? Don't sell large items until you absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of
tray.
advice. Yeah, I think as far as shipping goes, the learning curve, it should start with where you're lowering your risk, and that is selling smaller items.
Yes.
You know, worst case scenario, in my opinion, you're selling smaller items and you're charging too much for shipping, so you're not going to, lose anything that way other than, buyers, but that's fine. You're not losing money and you're not disappointing yourself. You can then just retool and go back. But yeah, I think that's always a great idea. Just start with smaller stuff and not a ton. Don't sell a ton of items early on. And try to stick with the, smaller items, less to pack, less to deal with until you get things figured out.
I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier. Shipping is part of a 3-part process: source, sell, ship. So how you're shipping should be decided way back here when you're sourcing. When you're buying that item, in your head, you're thinking, I got to ship this item. So always keep that in mind. We have one question here. So Michelle says, anyone attending the Seller Summit?
No. Well, I'm not.
I'm going to be honest with you here. You want to hear my story? I'm not attending. Okay, so I am not attending as an attendee. However, the minute I saw that email, I reached out to Whatnot with a proposal. I want to go and teach at the Seller Summit. And I'm not being facetious here. I want to go and teach in accounting, like an accounting or business focused tax accounting type, like what I do my talks on. I want to do a session. I want to do a workshop there because I think this is part of live selling that is ignored and completely missed. I was very surprised. I got a response from Whatnot within about 3 hours of my email from a real person. I'm pretty sure the wording didn't sound like a bot. And they said they're all full, which makes sense. I run conferences in my 9 to 5. I know how far in advance these things are planned. So I wasn't surprised. Yeah. They said they were full. They didn't need me. And honestly, I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that somebody cancels and they call me and tell me I can come talk. So that's where I'm at now. The response was really, really nice. They said they'll keep me in mind for future. They could have been blowing me off. I don't know. But that's my take on the Seller Summit. I'm not attending as a participant just due to my travel schedule. I would be able to work it in if I could go and teach.
And I believe we have 2 meetups already scheduled in April. So I'm not sure if we can squeeze it in, or, I mean, I know that it's available on dates that aren't already Whatnot meetups, but we may or may not. We talked about it, I think, yesterday, and then she's like, well, we can just drive there, go one day. I'm like, and then we looked up, it's a 15-hour drive. I'm like, that's not just a quick hit in and out. So we'll see.
Thank you, Millicent.
My answer is no. You got my principled, the way I go about it, I understand the social aspects, but my social aspect deals with me and the buying pool that I'm trying to create. That, I think it's great that they're doing it, but sometimes those type of things, this is sales. I've been in the real estate world. You go to these conventions and all, I just know what it's like. It's just not for me. It doesn't provide me, with what I'm looking for. It wouldn't really give me anything that I'm looking to get out of it, that other people might be able to get out of it. I know the cyclical nature of these things, where you go and you're all hyped up and excited and you come out of these things and you're ready to rock and roll, and then you fall into this world of complacency and back to the norms, and then you almost feel defeated as a result. I'm talking from experience because I've been through this, like I said, in sales in the past, going to these things. So it's just not for me. It doesn't affect me, and now that I know that about myself and have witnessed it for myself and other people, it's just, not something I'm going to spend money, time, and resources to attend and
Fair
partake in.
point.
That's neat. Yeah, we've got a lot. I agree, Sherry, they should sell virtual tickets. I would probably attend virtually if I could. I love that idea. We do have one final question. We are at time. So let's answer this last question and we're going to go for the night. But we definitely hope you guys will come back next week. The final question is, what is your vision for the podcast? And we'll each answer that and leave it on a good note for that. So Jeremy, do you want to go first? What's your vision?
Yeah, the vision for the podcast is exactly this. I mean, people are always looking for information. I have a chat show. Tracy has a chat show. I Love Discounts has a chat show, Tony and Lysandra. And it's one of those things where you see them in isolated environments and their perspectives. And I don't go around and watch a lot of other shows and stuff, but I thought it was be really helpful to the live selling industry as a whole, and especially right now with Whatnot, being able to come on here and talk about the same topic from multiple different perspectives from people at different stages in their business. I think people will be able to get more out of it, and that's already been proven. We sit here and talk about it, and there's stuff that, is revealing. There's different things I can look back on that I've said in the past, listening to Tracy, Tony, and Lysandra talk during the already few podcasts that we had to reevaluate even how I'm going to discuss things and talk about it, because it's perspectives that I would have never even had because it's not what I do and have no interest in doing. But there's still large swaths of people that will, and being able to see that is going to definitely benefit the viewers more than them going and watching us in isolated environments. And anytime you're watching someone in an isolated environment, you're like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. And then you go watch somebody else. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Then you're like, okay, which one do I implement? Which one? And when you get it here as a whole, it's a lot easier because you're hearing it all at one time instead of over here and then over here, to catch the different perspectives that might work for you on whatever the topic is that we're talking about.
Right.
So my vision is coming true. Like what I was hoping out of it pretty much happened day one. And, it'll progress. It'll evolve as we go, but that's the initial hope out of it.
And then I'll jump in real quick. So I know Lysandra and I are really big on this. I'm sure everybody else agrees, but Lysandra and I are very big on having a library. So we're in the midst of creating a shipping library, quick hit shipping videos. We actually have about 30 of them outlined at this point. And they'll be like 2-minute videos of, I need to know how to use a flat rate box. And you can go and find that exact video, TikTok style, very quick information when you need it, just in time type information. But not just shipping. We want to create a whole library of short, quick videos here. So this is a resource. So this isn't just come and ask questions, hear all the different things. I love that. And I'm all here for that. But we also want to give you more where when we're not on, it's still a resource for you to get those pieces of information you need. So that's another kind of goal that we've talked about. Tony, any final thoughts?
I had nothing better to do on Sunday nights.
And in that case, I'll add one more thought to it. I also wanted something like this because Whatnot decided to stop allowing playbacks of videos. So this became a very good alternate option because we sit here and talk and you can go back and watch everything. So
yes, that's a very good point. You don't have to go to our show.
And the other little attribute to this.
There was a high demand on rewatch Jeremy's show.
Yes.
And a lot of people were asking for, how do I rewatch this? So this gives you the opportunity to be able to interact and later on rewatch it if you want to.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate any of those likes that you're doing or spreading the word. So thank you so much for those of you who are doing that. We do appreciate that. And with that,
we're over.
We are.
Yeah. With that, it's time to call it a day.
Let me try one more time.
Let's see. He's dying to do some graphic for Tony here.
Oh,
I don't know what he's trying to do.
Let's see.
We're waiting because it's a lag on our side. So nope, it just flashes.
Hold on.
It's coming.
There it goes.
Fireworks. Congratulations, Tony, for being the Battle of the Best champion for the month of February.
Woo-hoo!
Great job.
Jeremy's head.
I was just gonna say, it looks like it's on my face. Yes, I'm stealing your win.
That's okay. I'll share.
The one who doesn't do raid trains just got fireworks.
Took me 13 months to get there, darn it. I'll share it. It's okay.
All right, everybody, we're going to go. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See you, everybody.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Catch you all later.
See you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.